In Norwood, at the Evanston apartments, what should be home for dozens of residents has lately felt more like a battleground. Tenants tell me they are certain they kept their rent paid in full.
But I know I paid my rent.
But the money they claim never reached its destination. Instead, some allege it was pocketed by a now former property manager with Touchstone Property Services. And now multiple residents say they have received eviction notices accusing them of being behind in payments. The Evanston is a Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority property.
These are real lives. These are real people that have a heart. And truth be told, they're paying their bills.
For Marvin Barnes, who moved in late 2024, the shock came with a sinking realization.
Basically, this is corruption at the highest level.
Barnes says the property manager instructed him to sign blank money orders.
When I first moved in, I paid with my money orders. He told me not to fill out all the information because I didn't know what to put down.
Months later, Barnes says he discovered those orders had been made out not to Touchstone or CMHA, but in the property manager's own name. Barnes showing me money orders.
They don't match. I've looked them over.
Each appearing to read paid to the order of one person, not the company expected to receive rent. Barnes is not alone. Other tenants have stepped forward with similar stories. This resident received a notice threatening eviction because he owed $1.
The mathematics is not working out.
Bishops Sonny James and Peterson Mingo have been rallying alongside residents, demanding answers.
Touchstone, you have got to do a better job. You've got to mend these wrongs. You've got to correct every illegitimate debt.
They're not a mob. Okay? They're residents from where they've been calling home. What happens when home no longer be there?
Attorney Christopher Travis, who is representing Barnes, tells me discussions are ongoing with city and CMHA officials.
It seems to be a process that's deep. What I can tell you, I have not had pushback from the city of Cincinnati. City of Cincinnati has primarily shown concern for what's going on.
I asked CMHA about the status of a reported investigation into this and what's being done to protect residents. That spokesperson told me, quote, they would have to respond tomorrow. Thursday, WCPO first told you about the alleged misuse of residents' rent payments at the Evanston apartments.
The last 4 years I've been staying here and paying my rent exact.
Residents allege a former property manager with Touchstone Property Services pocketed their money, and now multiple tenants have received notices claiming they're behind in payments.
After 10 days, we're supposed to get some type of, where the investigation is at. We received nothing.
That's the key question we've been pressing officials about. What is the status of the investigation into this, and what is being done to protect residents? I've confirmed that property management employee no longer works at any CMHA properties as of December 2025. Questions are still being raised about accountability. That's what brought me to city leaders Monday.
What, can city officials do to hold CMHA accountable?
I can say that CPD is involved, and so by that, what we also can do is make sure that we're leveraging our legal partners in this work, which is why legal aid is so critical to these type of issues.
The Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority says in part the notices residents receive were to provide them with an opportunity to correct the situation or come and speak to property management about their situation. As far as protections for residents, since our initial reporting, we've learned that CMHA has digitized all payments, at least for those properties managed by Touchstone Property Services, starting January 2026. And while Councilmember Mika Owens is encouraging this type of standardization for payments, she's also pushing renters to take advantage of city resources.
I really encourage people to get this in their hand, utilize it. We worked a long time to get this to a place that included stakeholders, even housing providers in this work. So really education, because we need both good tenants and we need good housing providers.
Frustration boiling over at Cincinnati City Council Wednesday.
It pisses me off that we have to go through this and nobody's listening to us.
At the center of their anger, ongoing disputes with the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority and one of its property management companies, Touchstone Property Services. Residents say they've been slapped with notices claiming they're behind on rent, but many insist they have paid, with some accusing a former property manager of pocketing those payments.
I pay my rent faithfully every month. They go into my account every month and get their rent. I said it's not fair to me or to no one. To me, it's embarrassing.
City leaders telling the dozen or so residents who showed up that the city is aware of the matter.
There is an active criminal investigation. I just want to reassure the people we are listening. We're doing everything we legally can to rectify this situation.
For the first time Wednesday, I was able to confront CMHA CEO Gregory Johnson about the investigation.
When were you all aware that there may have been some nefarious activity last November?
Last November.
Residents are saying that this is not isolated to one individual, one bad actor. They believe, or they say it's other people, it's widespread. Can you assure either way that it's not?
What I can assure you is that what we know at this moment, we've turned it over to the prosecutor's office.
Johnson says at least 35 of the 58 residents who got notices have responded, potentially fixing the issue if they are victims. Still, neighbors want quick justice.
I just wish we can, get some resolution to this for the tenants and to have the perpetrator properly prosecuted.
Where are our leaders to say, not in my town? We're not going away. We're not here for a simple, my bad, I'm sorry.
I've reached out to Cincinnati Police and the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office. There's still no word when and if anyone involved in this alleged fraud will be charged. The Hamilton County Grand Jury has indicted 55-year-old Deon Crockett on 7 counts, including theft in office, forgery, and tampering with records.
That's progress. That's progress. It does take the will to justice, time to play out.
Relief and the beginning of justice. That's what the Evanston residents like Marvin Barnes told me, reacting to the news of this indictment.
Well, I know the tenants are going to be, relieved because they can sort of breathe a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing that the villain has been caught.
The scheme, according to prosecutors, came to light when Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority issued past due notices to tenants, sparking multiple residents to speak out. Barnes was one of dozens of tenants who said Crockett instructed him to put rent payment money orders in his name. At the time, he says he didn't know what Crockett was doing was improper. Prosecutors say the theft happened while Crockett managed CMHA's The Evanston apartment complex between January 2024 and April 2026. Tenants handed over money orders to pay their rent. Investigators say instead of applying those payments to tenants' accounts, Crockett allegedly cashed the money orders himself, making it appear the residents didn't pay. Prosecutors estimate more than $30,000 was stolen, and that number could grow as more victims come forward and more money orders are traced. Court records show Crockett has a history dating back to at least 2002 with a forgery charge. In that case, he was sentenced to community control for 5 years.
I don't think it's vindicated until it's over with. Once him and, if there's any other parties involved, once they're in jail too, there's got to be something like an outside third-party entity to monitor what goes on.
In this case, Crockett faces up to 10.5 years in prison if convicted. In Evanston, Shakur, WCPO, 9 News.
We will continue to follow this case. You can read Jay's prior reporting on resident complaints at the Evanston and see how those allegations helped spark this investigation at WCPO.com.
Emotional pleas in court Friday.
But this man, he took my money. They put me out, evicted me wrongfully.
As alleged victims of 55-year-old Deon Crockett asked a judge to keep the former Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority property manager behind bars.
Scams are happening all over the place, but this one was particularly horrifying to me because these are just people who were defrauded out of their rent, right? It's by someone who is in a position of trust.
Crockett is accused of stealing rent payments from people living at the Evanston. It's a story I first covered when multiple residents began coming forward in early April. Crockett is now facing several charges, including theft, unauthorized use of property, and forgery.
I was intimidated by him, being threatened, so I don't think he should be out on the streets.
Prosecutors say Crockett cashed tenants' money orders instead of applying them to their accounts. Crockett has several civil and criminal cases in Hamilton County, including convictions like in a separate forgery case from the early 2000s and a menacing case as late as 2023. CMHA hired Crockett in 2024. He left the Housing Authority in December 2025.
Judge, he's a snake.
Hamilton County Prosecutor Connie Pillage tells me so far nearly $45,000 was stolen and 18 victims have come forward. These numbers can change as investigators believe there are more victims in this case.
This sort of fraud is particularly nasty because it breaches the trust that one should have that they can live safely in their home. Fear from being thrown out onto the street with no place to go without much notice.
If convicted, Crockett faces up to 10.5 years in prison. Shakur, WCPO 9 News.